one other question for the Reverend Sharpton. I have a question then also for the other panelists as well. And that is, Reverend Sharpton, you said, I'm trying to be disciplined and not to make this about those who have, in my opinion, hijacked a location, meaning the Lincoln Memorial, but will never be able to hijack the dream. Mr. Reverend Sharpton, can you, in fact, hijack a location? Isn't it, in fact, that the Lincoln Memorial is, again, a memorial for all Americans, not just simply for African Americans? Never be said that I don't have a lot of patience here. Mr. Massie, do you have any comment concerning the allegation that Glenn Beck had hijacked the Lincoln Memorial, this location, because it was utilized by Martin Luther King for his historic address?
I think most important, first of all we'll start with the definition of hijack. Hijack is to steal, basically by commandeering, to steal a car in travel, to take an airline while it's in the air by gunpoint or physical force. It also has to do with, again, stealing and robbing and looting and plundering. I would wonder how exactly that was done August 28th of last year. I would wonder exactly what Reverend Sharpton meant when he said hijack. But let me say this. It is Reverend Sharpton and those like him that have hijacked the memory of Dr. King. It is Reverend Sharpton and those like him who have not had the common decency and courtesy to return a phone call that their own offices indicate that they're aware of this event. It is they who have hijacked the message and the date of Dr. King and his memory and prostituted it as currency for personal gain to promote their agenda. It is they who have hijacked it, and it continues on in the schools and minds of Americans today. And that is unfortunate. Dr. King spoke of a day when, no, I don't want to say that first. Let me go back and say Dr. King spoke of a time that blacks could hope but move from a smaller ghetto to a larger ghetto. I assure you, I don't live in a ghetto. I assure you, the doctor that lives down the road for me, or that lived down the road from me, does not live in a ghetto either. I assure you, those that live on Dr. Phillips Drive, the basketball players, the baseball players, the coaches, the doctors, oh, there's a dentist there, do not live in a ghetto. As a matter of fact, their homes far exceed the cost of mine. Oh, did I mention they were black? I can get a hotel wherever I wish. I walk in, I'm greeted with a yes, sir. May I help you, sir? And even if they're scowling, they're reminded to say sir, because if not, well, they have an order of the day as to how they're to treat people. I've experienced nothing other, whether I was in Tennessee, whether I was in Kentucky, whether or not I was in California, Canada. So exactly what, Mr. Sharpton, do you mean by hijacking? What do you mean when you say Glenn Beck has stolen something? And let me also say Glenn Beck inferred, his rally was referred to mostly as a religious service. Many prayers. Black women sing, black choir women singing. Reverend C.L. Jackson, a black minister from Texas, received the Award of Merit from Glenn Beck, as did Albert Pujols, the St. Louis Cardinal first baseman, based on his Christianity and his service. It was an inclusive meeting, and it gathered people from all walks of life. Yes, Dr. King spoke of a time that we could go to a school and be educated and not be separate but equal. He spoke of a time when we would not be restricted to plantation schools, which our schools today are lacking, but we have the availability to go to the schools of our choice and the schools that we can afford, which is the way it should be. And most importantly, Dr. King, as we've all heard, as we can all quote in our dreams and in our sleep and in our waking hours, he spoke of melanin content not being what we were to be judged on, but to be judged on character. And I submit to you today, and I submit to the empty seat of Reverend Al Sharpton, tell me how what he advocates has anything to do with meritocracy, has anything to do with the content of character. Where is his character? It is you, Mr. Sharpton, who has hijacked the message of Dr. King, not Glenn Beck. Not Glenn Beck. And I would also say that Reverend Sharpton does not hold the mortgage or the property rights or the date rights on the date, August 28th, and he doesn't hold the mortgage or the property rights as such to the Lincoln Monument. That belongs to America, and Americans gathered that day, and Reverend Sharpton had an opportunity to join with Glenn Beck and celebrate in prayer and song and hymnal a return to Christ in America.